a military camp on the Danube frontier around 175 AD. Reign on leather tents. The most powerful human being on the planet, commander of 30 legions, ruler of 60 million people, a man whose word can end any life in the known world, sits alone at night by an oil lamp, writing in a notebook no one is ever meant to read. He is not writing orders. He is interrogating himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Do not act as if you had 10,000 years to live. For every conqueror in this series, the enemy was out there. An empire, a rival, a wall. This man had no rival left on Earth. So he spent 19 years at war with the only opponent he considered dangerous, his own mind. This is the story of Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher on the throne, and of the private notebook that became, 18 centuries later, one of the most read books in the world. Marcus never wanted the job, which is precisely why he got it. Rome in the 2nd century had stumbled onto the best succession system it would ever have. Emperors without sons, adopting the most capable man they could find. The result was an unbroken run historians call the 5 good emperors, the era Gibbon judged the happiest the human race had ever known. Marcus was spotted early, a serious, bookish aristocrat's son whom the Emperor Hadrian nicknamed Vericimus, the truest one, and slotted into the succession as a teenager. Everything about his education was preparation for absolute power, and everything in his character recoiled from it. The night he learned he would be adopted into the imperial line, his household reported the boy wept. He had read enough history to know what thrones do to the people who sit on them. His answer was to train for power the way athletes train for pain. Philosophy, specifically Stoicism, the discipline of focusing only on what you control. He slept on boards. He wore rough cloths. His tutors had to write to him, begging him to rest. When the throne finally came, in 161, he did something no Roman emperor had ever done. He insisted on sharing it, making his adoptive brother Lucius Verus co-emperor. Witnesses to the age noticed the pattern immediately. Power did not change Marcus. That was the whole project. He had spent 30 years building a self that power could not change. If the gods designed a stress test for Stoicism, it would look like Marcus's reign. He inherited the empire at its absolute peak, and then history called in every debt at once. First, war with Parthia in the east. Rome won, and the returning legions brought back the empire's real conqueror, plague. The Antonine Plague, probably smallpox, burned through the Roman world for 15 years, killing by some estimates 5 to 10 million people, gutting the army, emptying towns. Then the northern frontier snapped. Germanic tribes, pushed from behind, poured across the Danube, and for the first time in 3 centuries, a barbarian army crossed into Italy itself. The treasury ran dry. Marcus auctioned the palace treasures, his own wife's silks and jewels, rather than crush the provinces with taxes. Then his co-emperor died. Then his trusted general in the east, Avidius Cassius, hearing a false rumor of Marcus's death, declared himself emperor. Civil war. Through all of it, the notebook kept its inhuman calm. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That line was not written in a study. It was written by a man standing in the rubble of everything he had inherited. So the philosopher spent most of his reign not in Rome, but in the mud, nearly 2 decades on the Danube, personally commanding the hardest wars Rome had fought in a century. Picture the daily reality. A frail man in his 50s, with a chronic illness his Dr. Galen managed with opium and theriac, rising before dawn in a frozen camp in what is now Austria and Hungary, hearing petitions, auditing supply lines, judging court cases from a folding chair. And then, at night, writing Greek by lamplight. The notebook was his tool for staying sane, and its method is startlingly practical. Every morning, he rehearsed the day's damage in advance. You will meet the meddling, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the envious. They act this way because they cannot tell good from evil. None of them can harm what matters in you. Every night, an audit. Where did I fail my own standard? Not the enemy's standard. Not Rome's. His. Modern psychologists rediscovered these techniques and named them negative visualization, cognitive reframing, the evening review. Marcus was running them, under siege, with the world on his shoulders, 18 centuries before anyone called it therapy. The revolt of Avidius Cassius is where the philosophy faced its final exam. A rival emperor in the east, the legions dividing everything Rome feared most. Marcus's response baffled his own court. He was heartbroken not for himself, but at the lost chance, he had hoped, he said, to forgive Cassius in person and prove to him he was wrong. When a soldier arrived carrying the usurper's severed head, Marcus turned away and ordered it buried with honor. He then did something almost unthinkable in Roman politics. He refused to read Cassius's private correspondence, declining to learn which of his friends had betrayed him, and burned it unopened. No purge, no treason trials. The senators who had backed the wrong man kept their heads and their seats. Compare the pattern across this series. Caesar's clemency was strategy, and it failed him. Marcus's clemency was principle, and it held. The difference is that Caesar forgave men to win them. Marcus forgave because vengeance would have damaged the only thing he actually claimed to own, his character. The best revenge, says the notebook, is to be unlike him who performed the injury. And then there is the decision that shadows everything, Commodus. For 80 years, the adoptive system had chosen emperors by competence, and it had produced the Golden Age. Marcus was the first in a century to have a surviving son, and he broke the streak. Commodus was made co-emperor at 16, sole heir at 19. Within a few years of Marcus's death, the son was fighting in the arena as a gladiator, renaming Rome after himself and ruling through favorites and purges. Gibbon drew the line bluntly. With Commodus begins the decline and fall. Why did the clearest-eyed man in Rome miss what everyone else could see? Some historians defend him. Passing over a living son guaranteed civil war, and every dynasty in Roman history proves it. Others answer that the Stoic audit had one blind spot, the same one it always has, the auditor's own heart. The man who rehearsed every disaster each morning never rehearsed the possibility that his son was ordinary. He had conquered ambition, anger, grief, and power itself. Love got through. He died in 180 AD in a plague-struck camp near Vienna, still on campaign, about 58 years old. His last recorded words to the guard, "Go to the rising sun, I am already setting." Here is the strange arithmetic of his legacy. The empire he saved is dust. The wars he won changed nothing for long. But the notebook, the thing he never titled, never intended anyone to read, written for an audience of one, outlived it all. So what did Marcus Aurelius know? Every other mind in this series aimed outward. Redraw the map, redraw the frame, redraw the rules. Marcus's discovery is that there is exactly one territory you fully govern, and it is behind your own eyes. Events are not what wound you, the notebook insists. Your judgments about events are, and the judgments are yours to command. That is either the only real power there is, or the only one left when everything else fails. On the Danube, in the plague years, it amounted to the same thing. And the discipline was daily, not heroic. Rehearse the morning, audit the night, forgive fast, and do the day's work as if it could be your last, because one day it will be. But his story ends with the honest warning, the same one every episode in this series ends with. The audit is only as good as its blind spot, and his was wearing his son's face. Master the territory behind your eyes, and let someone you trust check the corner of it you cannot see. Next time, 15 centuries later, on the other side of the world, a duelist who fought 61 duels and lost none reaches the same conclusion, with a sword in each hand. Miyamoto Musashi. Subscribe and step into the minds that made history.